term kamikaze originated in the 13th century when the Mongols were trying to invade Japan, and they were prevented from doing so by a typhoon. But later the Japanese decided that was divine intervention, and they named that typhoon the Divine Wind, or kamikaze. Well, by 1945, the Japanese were in some pretty dire straits. They had lost many of their ships, many of their aircraft and pilots, and the Allies had also cut off their oil supply from Indonesia. And oil was the lifeblood of the Navy, particularly back in those days. So, at that point, the Japanese were not ready to throw in the towel in spite of all those setbacks, and they resurrected the term kamikaze. But now it means you take a stripped-down aircraft, you load it up with explosives, you take a young volunteer pilot who can barely fly the plane, you tell them to go out where the Allied ships are and cause as much damage as you possibly can. In the 1944-1945 time frame, when this activity was the most prevalent, it's estimated that something in the neighborhood of 4,000 young pilots took part of this program. In 1945, off of Okinawa, the Allies actually lost 34 ships just to kamikaze attack. So it could be a pretty effective weapon. Well, it is April 11th, 1945. Missouri is off of Okinawa, providing gunfire support. At about 2:45 in the afternoon, here comes a kamikaze plane off our starboard quarter back here, out the water. Comes in and crashes into the side of the Missouri, just beyond where these picture boards are. Well, the good news was that whatever explosives he was carrying did not go off, fell into the ocean, as did most of the fuselage of the aircraft. One of the wings, full of aviation fuel, actually cartwheeled up on the deck on the other side of this big vent here, and a huge fire erupted. Huge enough that ships around the Missouri were not sure the Missouri was going to make it. But as it turned out, Missouri had a top-notch damage control team, and believe it or not, they had this huge fire out in just 3 minutes. So quite an accomplishment. Well, anytime you have an event like this, first thing you do is you take a roll call, see how your crew came out. And it turns out everybody on the Missouri is accounted for. But there are human remains on the deck. And it's the remains of the young kamikaze pilot. Well, things can get a little raw, a little brutal during wartime. And the general feeling among the crew was, throw that stuff overboard and let's get on with the war. Captain William Callahan, the captain of the Missouri, had a different thought. He said, whether we like it or not, this young aviator, by his standards, died honorably for his country. And the least we could do for him is give him an honorable burial. And that's in fact what the Missouri did. Now typically when you have a burial at sea, you drape the national flag of the deceased over the body before it's committed. Well, we're at war with Japan. We don't have a Japanese flag on board. So overnight, some signalmen up on the bridge were able to find enough material on board to actually fabricate a rising sun imperial Japanese flag that was used in the burial ceremony. This ceremony took place the next day, April 12th, 1945. That's an important date, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. And the burial party stood right here where we are. You see some footprints on the deck. This is where the burial party stood. Over here are some footprints where the honor party stood. So when the burial began, the ship's chaplain said a brief prayer. The honor guard fired 3 volleys, and the body was committed to the deep. Now you might have thought, even during wartime, or maybe particularly during wartime, the actions of this ship and this captain would go widely noticed. And in fact, just the opposite happened, was basically forgotten in history. And the reason was that it was that same day, April 12, 1945, that FDR died and Harry Truman became President of the United States. That was the big news worldwide. What happened on this ship was largely forgotten. Now, by the 1990s, after some extensive research by a couple of individuals, they were able to pretty much identify who this young kamikaze pilot was. He was 19 years old. He was a second-class petty officer in the Japanese Imperial Navy. His last name was Ishino. Later in the 1990s, some of his family, the remaining family and friends, actually came on board the Missouri, I'm sure maybe for a little bit of closure. And one of the interesting things they brought with them was a family photograph that was taken when this young pilot was just a toddler. And ironically, in that photograph, he's holding a little airplane. So in 19 years, he went from that to crashing into the side of Missouri. Any questions about the kamikaze attack? Okay, as we wrap up here,